Fit for Life Radio. Episode number 115, and Will and I are here with our guest, Amanda Ward, who is a licensed professional counselor and wellness coach. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, guys. It's
Welcome
nice to be
back.
Yeah, It's nice to be back.
She was with us back in April,
Yeah.
April 27th, with how to manage your thoughts. That was the topic. And yeah, we got a lot of good feedback, and everyone enjoyed.
I think everyone really liked
Yeah.
that episode a lot.
Glad
They
to
said,
hear
can y'all just quit and you do the podcast instead? But now, as you see, the technical stuff, that's
It's
yeah,
such a
you
pain.
can keep it.
We're lucky we got this episode rolling.
I'm good at talking, not at those things.
yeah. So in the it's almost been a year,
Yeah, that's crazy.
My
It
God.
didn't
Yep.
seem like that long.
and in that time, not much has changed as far as like people's. If anything, people are more curious about exercise and fitness,
Yeah.
and the more we work with people, and I think the more people start to realize that it's just so much more than
Do a workout.
workouts, foods.
Mm-hmm. Eat less, move more.
Yeah, it's just more complicated than that, and there's environmental and mental things, and obviously, like we talked about last time, it was your thoughts,
Your
so
own thoughts.
mental thing.
Mhm.
Today, I think would be beneficial for everyone to dive into kind of. Yeah, let's be intentional with some of our thoughts and
Mhm.
think about why we want to
Mhm.
do this.
Mm-hmm.
Why we want to start going to a gym or start working out on our own or start improving our nutrition and eating habits. Because one thing that, we've noticed, and we did a podcast recently where we talked to an author. He wrote a book
Mhm.
on, I meant to bring you a copy. I have one to get
I
you.
would love
It's
that.
really, it's good.
Yeah, and I really loved, and he really laid it out in the book about how, a big problem with exercise is people start it because they're like, I want to lose weight,
Uh-huh.
so I'm going to start exercising. And the reality is exercise isn't great for weight loss, like
Mhm.
exercise alone.
Yes.
So then they do it, they don't lose weight,
Yep.
and they're like, I hate exercise.
Yeah,
and
it's a
then
bad expectation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's this loop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we need to, redefine, okay, I'm going to exercise to improve my conditioning, to relieve stress, to
Yeah.
gain strength,
Mhm.
and make it positive.
Mhm.
But even then, we're going to run into roadblocks with our priorities and time.
Mhm.
So that's where, the surface why of I want to lose weight,
Right.
I want to look good in my bathing suit.
Right.
They're not going to carry you through, right?
No, not at all. And I think where maybe you guys know the answer to this. I don't know where along the lines did exercise get touted as the way to lose weight, right?
Mhm.
Because it became a cultural association, and our thoughts work in patterns. So the more that whether it was through marketing or trends or whatever, the more that evidence supported that thought that
Mhm.
exercise helps you lose weight, then that pattern was rooted. And so we kind of live in it's kind of a societal downfall, if you will, that we have this paradigm that says if you exercise, you can lose weight.
Mhm.
When I am quite convicted in what you just said, that exercise is one of the most minor pieces of
Yeah.
maintaining a specific quote unquote weight or health
Mhm.
status, right? So I like to take that back to, do we understand what being human means?
Mhm.
I think I talked a little bit about this last time. You are a mind, willpower, intellect, thoughts, desires, that sort of stuff. You live in a body. Your brain and your body hold that stuff. Your brain functions in a certain way to move that stuff.
Yep.
And you're a spiritual identity. So if you know these things about yourself and you learn about those parts of yourself, you get to know yourself, you have a relationship with yourself. The idea that exercise is fundamental to being human makes so much more sense to you, because you're going to do it in a way that is amenable to those things that you have. So what is exercise, right?
Yeah.
For some people it is lifting weights. Some people it's running. But you know what? I know some people, I'm kind of jealous of them, who can walk every day and they maintain a stellar status of health, right? It's like, what is exercise for you and why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we just talked about kind of before we came on, when you maybe miss exercise for a week or two for whatever reasons, life, or you get sick or
Or you
something.
get
Yeah.
COVID.
You miss it, right? And
Oh my
when you've been
goodness.
doing it for so long,
Yeah.
you don't miss it because you're like,
I'm
I
gonna.
was gonna lose half a pound or
Right.
whatever. You miss it because like the mental benefit
And,
It's-
and just how you feel in
Yeah.
general. You
Yeah.
know, like
The
when I
outlet.
normally exercise, I feel this way, and you start to kind of not feel that way. You feel like mentally unclear, and your energy's suffering, and you're like, I need this back in my life.
Yes, it's like you guys are hitting on something I just call personalization, right? If my initial quote unquote motivation or drive to exercise is to lose weight, it's not very personal. That's a pretty universal concept. It's also very externally driven and pressured, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But if exercise is personal to me, it's part of how I do me. Well, then it becomes a part of my life. It becomes a part of the fibers of the way I move through my day.
Yeah.
Then when you can't do that thing, like you're saying, and I was there, when you can't do that thing, it's like a piece of me is missing. That's what you want, the things that are good for you, quote unquote, good for you in your life. You want them to become fibers of who you are.
Yeah. And you said a bit ago about how, like, what is exercise? And I think it's important for people to really realize and think, we're really big on environments, right?
Yeah.
And so much of why we have these things are because of our environments. And the reality is, like, we shouldn't have to go to these, and I say this being a gym owner, right? But these buildings full of equipment to
Yes.
move and treadmills to walk on and all these things.
Right.
Because the reality is, 60 years ago, we didn't have exercise really because it was built into our lives.
People just
Absolutely.
walked places.
Yeah.
and-
So
Yeah.
and it was built into our lives and part of our lives, like you just said, because a lot of people could be like, well, exercise isn't part of my life. We feel that way now that we've been consistent about it because you notice when it's missing. And the reality is it shouldn't be missing. We need it, and
Yeah.
it's just not part of our environments because we drive everywhere.
Right. Well, if we look at cultural evolution, right, there's this whole school of thought that says human beings were never meant to, quote unquote, commute to work. We were meant to move to whatever it was we were doing. And so it's not to say that, I don't know, how far do you want to go back? Industrial Revolution on it was bad. It's great. It's amazing. It's the evolution of our culture and advancements and all these things. But is the human body, the brain for that matter, any different than the first humans?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
No,
no,
not
we
much.
still,
Yeah.
right. We still need the same things. Our body still functions. Sorry, I still consume, absorb, and eliminate in the same way that the first human did. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But all of this stuff around us and the advancements and the environments that we ascribe to are directly impacting our physical experience as
Yeah.
humans.
And on a base level, think about it, whether you want to go back to like hunter-gatherer or, agricultural, still you either had to walk and find and gather and hunt your food.
And do all of the work.
Or you had to tend to all the work
Right.
for everything
Right.
to get done. There was this physical barrier
Yeah.
between getting just food, right? Or now you literally can just sit in your room and
Yeah.
have food
You
delivered
don't
to
have
you.
The
to
Instacart.
move. Yeah. You don't
And-
have to move to get what you need to live. Yeah.
And it's comforting. So then when we go back to like, oh, I need to do this because I feel, bad about myself and I want to look better this summer or because my doctor said to, that may get you started or at least kind of start the spark. But the reality is it's not going to keep you going.
Yeah.
So like we've talked about before, like a easy thing to do with people is the 5 whys. So you say, why do I want to work out? Well, I want to look good in my bathing suit. Why do you want to look good in your bathing suit? Well, I feel more confident when I look better in my bathing suit. Well, why do you want to feel more confident? Well, I have 2 daughters and I want them to be around a more confident mom so that, they grow up being more confident. And now all of a sudden, oh, that's a lot
Yeah.
deeper
There's
reason.
a real reason
You know,
behind
it's,
it.
oh, I want to,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stick with it. Now, playing that game and taking it serious is hard.
Yes. It is hard because, well, I think we can throw gratification in there a little bit, right? Science has done us favors. We know that A plus B equals C. We know that there is a way for me to lose weight so that I can look good in my bathing suit.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
just kind of, let's just do
Yeah.
that. Let's just do that. As opposed to, oh, this is about me wanting to instill character values in my children, oh my, that's so much harder, and I have to wait 30 years to see if it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, when
That's a good way to put it.
you could just make me suffer through, give me 10 more, and maybe I could fit in that bathing suit that I wanted,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So what are some of the things you like to use with your clients or that you've learned, you know, with your approach and angle coming at things kind of, I think, what was it that I asked you about that I found intriguing? Let's see.
Yeah, you sent me a screenshot. I think it's from my website.
Oh, clarity exercises.
Oh, okay. So it sounds a lot more fancy than it is. I was having a conversation with a client this morning, and we literally landed on the idea that if it makes you feel stupid, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
If make it as simple as possible, that's the answer, right? Clarity exercises. Just I like to play word games with people, kind of like you just did with the whys, but to get them as clear as possible on what really matters to you, right? So, for example, you asked a series of whys to get them to go deeper and deeper and deeper. I am really, really, really focused on getting someone to be vulnerable with themselves. And so a lot of times we don't actually have clarity on the things that do matter to us because those things are connected to maybe unpleasant emotions. Maybe it's painful, maybe it's hurtful, maybe we went through something as a child, or we have family history of something, and that's why this is important to us, but we don't want to look at that reason because it doesn't feel good. It's sad, we have a memory or maybe a traumatic experience, something to that effect. So what I like to do, one of the things, this is maybe just a little off the path from the directness, the way that you asked me, but one of the things that I like to do is take people through a mindfulness exercise where I have them recall a negative memory and have them kind of make that memory tangible. You know, what smells do you smell? What does it feel like tactile wise? Are there, are you outside? Are you inside? Like, have them actually really re-experientialize that emotion, not that experience, but the emotion, right? Like whether it's pain or rejection or whatever. Okay, that's super easy for people to do. We have a negativity bias. We store those painful memories because our brain wants to protect us against that emotion in the future. So it's so easy to grab it. So we do that first just because I want to kind of prove that point. Like, you're good. You don't have to protect yourself. Your brain is doing that for you. And then we do the same with a positive, right? So I have them try to remember. Really, it's helpful to do like the first positive memory you can imagine. But a lot of us, we've got memory issues. And a lot of it has to do with what I'm talking about. We don't want to go back in our lives for whatever reason. But I have them create clarity around what that positive experience really felt like the sensations, the emotions, the thoughts that you were having in that moment. And if we can narrow it down to 3 to 5 words, the reality is that those words are what we're seeking every day. We aren't seeking 10 pounds lost. We aren't seeking the ability to go to the beach in our bikini. We are seeking whether it be confidence or excitement or
respect.
All these experiential aspects of our lives. And when we can get clear on that, if that becomes a daily goal, the strategies for how to achieve that aren't as astronomical as, I want to lose 30 pounds by the summer. And then along the way, what you find if you commit to that work is that I talk a lot about integration. If you start to honor your spiritual identity by doing the things that are required to achieve that mental experience, your body is going to get in line. You're going to treat yourself better, right? And you're going to experience the benefits. And a lot of times I hate making claims like this, but a lot of times something like weight loss is just a byproduct of you actually committing to the process.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's something we find for a lot of people.
It's an outcome, not an action.
Yeah.
You can't do weight loss.
Exactly.
And a lot of it's tied to emotions and stress and everything you just went over. And until you address that, you're going to be spinning your wheels on weight loss.
Absolutely. And your results, going back to the science thing, that's done us a lot of favors. You can get outcomes, especially if you're focused on them and you have strategies that have been proven, right? But the outcome will be super temporary because it doesn't have roots.
Well, think about how many people lose weight and then gain it back.
That's
right?
That's that experience.
And they are able to short term get this done because they know how to do it. There's a process, but there's emotions that haven't been dealt with or experiences,
Yeah.
and that will always rear its head
Yeah.
until you address it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get into the nitty gritty, and some people might call it woo woo, but when you get into the kind of physics behind stored body fat, which is really another misconception, right? People want to lose weight. No, you don't want to lose
Yeah,
weight.
you
You
wanna lose
actually
fat,
want to
yeah.
release stored body fat that doesn't belong on your frame.
Yeah, you
That's
don't want
what
to
you
lose
want.
muscle and
Right.
bone density.
So when
yeah.
we look at that, we look at what's being stored in the body. Okay, body fat, yes, but what else lives in fat? Stress, toxic emotion, right?
Coronavirus.
Yeah,
yes.
COVID lives.
Did you see that study that came out recently?
I did,
Yeah.
yes, and that's
Yeah.
the whole thing, right? That's the joke in my house right
Yeah.
now, that it ate the parts of me that were
Yeah.
that were there. But so you look at that and you go, I can't just exercise to lose weight. I can't just whatever quote unquote eat right means for you. I can't just do these things. I have to bring all parts of me to this
Yeah.
process, and only then will it last.
Yeah.
Whatever longevity means for you.
We could do a whole nother episode on body fat specifically, because
be
mammals
fun.
store toxins in body fat, right?
Yes.
And this is something they're exploring a lot, but so like cancers, things like that. Breast cancer is a very common cancer, and
Yep.
breast tissue is a lot of fat,
Yep.
and we store toxins over years in fat.
Yes.
Maybe it's regional. So there's a
Yes.
lot they're learning about that. And
Right.
like when we just talked about coronavirus, so they're finding that the coronavirus
Yeah.
actually
Takes
can,
up
like,
residence
take
in
up
your fat
residence
cells.
in your
Yeah.
fat cells. So that might be why people who are more obese
Yep.
struggle with a lot more long COVID, things like that.
Yes.
Again, they're learning, but fat. It almost, when you have enough, it becomes like its own organ.
Yes. Yeah.
It has these kind of effects on the body.
Right. It's a
And,
functional.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. It's
Yes.
not just this extra.
It's not just extra weight.
No.
Sweater.
No.
So
Right. And it's totally different, but kind of the same concept of looking at, do I want to lose weight? No, I want to release stored body fat. Well, wait a minute. Maybe you also need to reduce inflammation, which
Yeah.
we can have the same exact conversation about that, right? Stress, chronic overload, residual buildup of things you're not, digesting. There's all of these different reasons that play into why you're holding on to stuff and what it will take to release that.
Yeah.
And that's where we come back to your question of, why do you want this? Let's get clear on that, because if you're not clear on that and it's not personal to you, it's not
Yeah.
going to work. And if it works, it's not going to stick around.
Yep. And I think off of that, coming to me is really, you realize too, if people finding their why and reframing all this, right? Because if you just get a little more detail, well, I don't want to just lose weight.
Yeah.
I want to lose fat while also gaining some muscle,
Sure.
gaining strength, then gaining conditioning, right? So now that makes it easier to put this exercise stuff in a different bucket.
Yeah.
And look at it as like, what can I gain from all this?
Well, and coming back to cultural associations, right, we've done ourselves a huge disservice, because aesthetics are what apparently tell us if we're healthy or not,
Yeah.
right? When the reality is what you're just describing is exactly that next level for somebody who's kind of figured out what their why is. It's, wait a minute, what kind of person, do I want to be? And how does that person function, and how do they feel when they're functioning, right? This idea of optimal performance on a daily basis. And then, who am I supposed to be? Why am I here? What am I doing with my life, right? And a lot of it comes back to universal needs like safety and contribution and connection, right? We want people, we want to feel like we're needed, and we want to have an impact.
Yep.
That's about who you are, not about what you look like.
Yeah.
But again, you're not just a doer. You live in a body, and so when you start doing and being in ways that complement each other, it all integrates and it all starts to show up in a completely different package.
Yeah. And discovering your why, it can change, right?
Oh, yeah.
And like you just said, it makes sense for it to change based on where you are in your life.
Yes.
We're fortunate that most of our clients we work with are between 40 and 60 years old. And when people start losing physical capability and having limits and restrictions on movement, there's a different fear and different why.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Those people find their why a lot easier,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Same thing when you're 20 years old. Yeah, maybe you do want to be more attractive to
Yeah.
to a significant other,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so you start for those reasons, which is fine, yeah,
Right.
because that's a little bit of human nature,
Yeah,
right?
it's part of the experience.
And you go for those reasons, and then it eventually morphs into other reasons eventually, as you get a little older. So,
Yeah.
but the key is that you're tapped into a true kind of like you said, like
Personalized.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're personalizing it, and it's like, why am I here? What am I looking to accomplish?
It's about a greater meaning.
Yeah.
You know, it can't just be about this external aesthetic.
Yeah.
And my favorite is, and go back to environments a little. So it's so much easier, and you probably don't have to do all this deep thought if it's just ingrained
Yeah.
from a habit. And when we would see clients training, and then their kids are sitting there watching,
Yeah.
then those clients, almost 100%, eventually, 3 months later, they show us a video of their client exercising of their child
kid.
exercising at home.
Yes, it's the best.
By
It's
their
my
self.
favorite thing, man.
Right.
Because that's the environment the kid's in now.
Yeah.
Oh,
They see
absolutely.
their parents cooking and stuff.
And it's so cute. My she's 10 now, blows my mind. But she's watched me. From the moment I could hand a bottle to her dad, I was back in the gym, personal training others and getting myself, back where I want it to be. And so she's seen it from the get go. But she and I have those personalities. Our human designs kind of confront each other. We have
Clash
a
a little
little
bit.
we have a little tension, right?
So
it
is that
can't be-
because y'all are very similar? Or
Oh, I don't think it's quite that.
Yeah.
I think it's more of just the way she's wired and the way I'm wired. So it can't come from me, right? I can't tell her to do these things. I
Yeah.
can't say, "Hey, this is how you live a great life." These are the things that your body needs.
Yeah. She'll do the opposite. Yeah.
But right, so I have learned. I tell everybody she is God's gift to me. She is for me on this earth. She's making me a better human because I'm learning how to have restraint. I'm learning how to discipline myself, right? So I'm learning. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm learning to be really soft with her, right? It's just kicked in over the past probably 6 months. Yeah, I really want to do a workout, Mom. Can I go down and use your whatever things on the TV at the time or whatever, what are they called? Apps.
Yep.
Those things.
What are those
app
things?
things.
But she'll get on the bike or whatever, and I'm like, okay, great, have fun. And I have to really hold myself back
Resist
from
the
going
urge
to do
to-
it with her
Yeah.
because that will totally spoil
Yeah.
it. But you're right. She has, whether she thinks it's a good idea what I'm saying or not, she's had an example her entire life of she moves every day, and it's
Yeah.
a big deal if she doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it also that's normal, right?
Right,
Because
right,
that's what she's grown up
exactly.
knowing. Whereas if you grow up and you're like, I've never seen that,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it's going to feel like a huge shock and change, or
Yeah.
that maybe I'm not that type of person because you were never around it.
Right,
You're
yeah.
not comfortable with
Yeah.
it. And yeah, that's a whole nother thing that when people are trying to personalize and find their why or whatnot, that they have to overcome, right?
Yes.
It's like who they, what we think a certain person,
It's like.
yeah, stereotypes, right? So,
Right.
and that you can change just because you weren't athletic. A common one we see is if you didn't play sports when you were a kid, I'm not athletic.
Right.
So working out seems like it takes athleticism.
Yeah, it's not for me.
That's
Right.
not for me.
I'm not a workout person.
Right.
That's a common one we hear. I'm
Absolutely,
like, well,
I hear
everyone's
that
a-
all the time as well.
Everyone's a
Yeah.
workout person.
yeah,
That's
you
right.
have bones and muscles.
Well,
and,
and it's funny. What I love to do is I love parallels, and I tell people, look at your body. If we were to put ourselves in a petri dish right now with a microscope, we would see literal movement. We would see cells bebopping and vibrating up against each other, and they form cellular colonies, and that turns into an organ, and it speaks to this one. That you are movement. So parallel that through your life. You were meant to move. Motion is how we move through life, and you're moving whether you want to move or not.
Yeah.
So why not honor that process? You're going to feel a whole lot better if you do.
yeah. And I could even maybe break down, I know one of my whys is to, we grew up in an era where our older generations become very frail.
Yes.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up you're like, oh, well, that's what happens.
That's
Yeah, when
right.
you
That's
get
what
old,
aging
right?
is,
And-
right?
apart.
But then you realize,
But it doesn't have to be
that
that way.
generation had to maybe work really hard, and then
Yeah.
they shut it down when
Yeah.
they retire, and they
Right.
stop moving, and they
Right.
stop doing things, and then that's a result. And but you realize now, and you've seen a generation that was introduced to exercise and a different thought process. And yeah, I see guys and girls in their 60s and 70s and 80s.
I was just going to say, I feel the same way. I think the trend now is that the older we get, the more active we're getting
Yeah,
because
'cause
we're
we end up having more
realizing,
time
right?
and
And
the
we're
importance.
realizing that this is
Yeah.
possible, right? That generation that we grew up with, they thought that age meant breakdown.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we renew the mind, reframe things, learn more, right? All this advancement we're talking about, again, it's not all bad, is, oh, like there's this whole phenomenon called reverse aging, right? And no, you're not actually going to get younger because you do certain things. Sorry, guys.
But you're going to drastically slow it down.
Or
really.
you cannot actually fall apart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So take women, right? Osteoporosis and the bone density thing. There are ways for me to have stronger bones in 10 years than I've got right now. And it's simple lifestyle stuff. It's learning supplementation. It's vitamin D. It's sunshine. It's weightlifting. It's walking. It's weight-bearing exercise. So those are all things that I can integrate into my life and be better in 10 years than I am right now.
Yeah. It's crazy the difference, though. This is kind of lighthearted, but the difference between like the way like old people used to be perceived. The Golden Girls when they first came on.
Oh, I've seen this.
I think it was comparing them to J-Lo.
Yeah.
Was it J-Lo?
Yeah.
I think it was them and the cast of Sex and the City.
The
I've
cast,
seen
yeah,
this.
they're the same age.
Where they're
Like,
the same
what?
age.
Yeah.
No, stop.
So, so when they started the
When
show,
they started
they
the
were
show.
the same age.
How old were they?
It was like 20, 30, 30s, 40s. I don't know.
They were.
Maybe I'm
The-
getting that
Well,
wrong.
it's
The
they
Golden-
were like in their 50s or something.
Okay.
Okay.
And like
Oh,
Sarah
you're right,
Jessica
yes.
Parker
Like
and
now they're the
J-Lo
same
is
age that the
50,
Golden
yeah,
Girls
yeah,
were.
yeah.
And the big difference between how they're viewed, because the Golden Girls just straight looked old,
Yeah.
right? They had like, I don't know, that old lady hair,
It was the
you know?
white curly hair and the
Yeah.
frumpy clothing, right?
Yeah.
And they just sat around and hung out all day.
Yeah, and we can see this from both sides, right? A lot of this is a cultural expectation and a standard stigma
Absolutely.
of, okay, if you don't look a certain way, then you're not good enough, right? So that's the negative. But the other side of it is, you don't have to settle for less just because you're 5 years older than you used to be.
Yeah.
You can keep getting better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that it was just interesting to see how different that is now.
Yeah. Are you familiar with like Mark Sisson? Is that
Oh,
how it
yeah.
says? You know, and like so he's
Yeah.
well,
The
I don't
dude's
know,
crushing
65,
it.
70 and
Yeah.
he's in great shape, right? And
He's
and it's like,
awesome.
you would I always use him as inspiration because he's like
Yeah.
similar height, similar weight as me. And I'm like, wow, really, like everything I'm doing now, I can be doing when I'm 65, 70. He's doing it. I know I can do it.
That's one thing I really like about the way you talk about your philosophy in fitness is that it's not about, and there's nothing wrong with what I'm about to say because I tend to set big goals sometimes, but it's not about crushing like your biggest lift or this great endurance event or whatever. It's about doing things now that are going to keep you doing those things so that you can do those things when you're older.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
functionality.
Yeah, and even with the big events and big goals,
Yeah.
it's so funny. This is what happens with social media now. Like you have to say something right and kind of have a lane, but it doesn't mean
The
that you
opposite
hate
isn't
other
true.
stuff, right?
That's
Look,
yeah.
I was an athlete and I'm super competitive and luckily I can channel that into business and stuff.
Right.
But people think I would despise or hate certain things.
Right.
But the reality is no, I just know that there's a lot of people who need to hear it's okay to do the minimum effective dose, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to have the time or care to maybe run a marathon, right?
Yes.
Or be a bodybuilder and
Yes.
step on stage. So
Well, that brings
then they
it-
won't do anything.
That comes back to my point on personalization. If it is not right for you right now, what's the point?
Yeah.
Or are you actually causing a detriment to your process, right? And the other thing that you're illuminating there, kind of coming back to how I work with people, is illuminating these limiting thought patterns that we have. One of them is all or nothing, right?
Yep.
And black or white, right? So because I say X, that doesn't mean I've eliminated all the other alphabet letters, right?
Yeah.
It's like X for me right now, but used to be C. Maybe next week it'll be J, whatever. But so we reserve the right to do what's right for us right now. And in order to do that, we have to have a relationship with ourselves and understand what's going on in this body.
And you have to be honest too. And I think sometimes we see this with people that start out new at the gym, is they think it's got to be beast mode 6 days a week. They're like, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to come here every day. And I think you have to be honest with yourself and realize, am I that person? Can I even do that? Is that going to serve me at all? For most people, the answer is no,
Yeah.
right? You haven't worked out in 2 years, and going 6 days a week will probably burn you out, and you'll stop exercising or get hurt. And it's hard to, maybe for some people.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out. If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
Admit that, you know what, like, this is where I'm at right now. I'm
Yeah.
not at 6 days a week beast mode. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not who I am. And I think that kind of affects people.
Yeah.
To admit that is hard for them.
When I was in grad school, I had a professor who, when we're doing our counseling skills workshop, it's very experiential. You have to sit and pretend to do therapy in front of him and get critiqued. It was terrible, but he was such a great professor, though. So, but I remember he taught me this concept, and I remember it as my 80% rule. Because that's just the number that we use that day. But it was this idea that we are, whether it's implied or directly said, like, you got to give your all, right? You got to give your 100%. Well, we don't understand that 100% for me today, and speaking to having just been sick, my 100% today looks different than my 100% on January 10th.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. And my 100% next week, hopefully, is going to look different than my 100%. So my 100% today is on that scale of 1 to 100, maybe it's a 65, you know? And I have to go, this is where I'm at today. Yeah. Okay, this is my full out. My full out doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And it's about effort, which is an experience, not an outcome.
Yeah, I really like that a lot.
Because here's the thing, and the ironic thing with that is the actually more advanced you become, and the more important that becomes.
Absolutely.
Right?
It just becomes more nuanced.
Yeah, people would think like, ooh, taking 30% effort off seems like something like a beginner would do, right? And the reality is like
no.
No. And I think too, like I kind of like to call it like auto-regulating your effort, right?
Yeah.
And here's where people, the age thing, right? When I was in my 20s versus 40, here's why being 20 versus 40 is really a major difference. It's because we have more responsibility typically when we're older, which can impede our recovery and everything,
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah.
So like you just said,
I just throw the word hormones in there too.
yeah, well, and
Well, yeah, that is also
hormones
a big
too.
one.
So, but for kind of regulating
Right,
the effort,
yes, yes.
when you're 20, like you're less likely to have
family.
a career and family.
Right.
So you like lay around and watch video games and eat, go train, and then eat some more and then
Oh
go
my
to sleep.
gosh.
Right. Well, then maybe the 40-year-old version of you. You're talking about giving 100% effort in the gym. What if you have a day where you're up late because you have a newborn?
Uh-huh.
You go to work and
Uh-huh.
your project was late and you got yelled at by your boss.
Uh-huh.
And
There
then
was
you
traffic.
forgot lunch and
Yeah.
you had to eat something, pixie stick.
Oh.
And then
A
and then
pixie stick.
and then you get to the gym.
Uh-huh.
But if you're like, no, today is 1 rep max out,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I'm gonna test my mile run.
Right.
That's
You're not going to
that's
be able
silly,
to get,
right?
Yeah.
The reality is there's these other things that happen that are going to affect your 100%, right?
And I think this is where the process that we're alluding to, the process that I walk with people through in my work, but also the process that you guys partner with people on, this is where an external partner can be so helpful.
Yes.
Because you got to know, we're told, or we have these I don't know, we could chalk it up to inner critic or social language, whatever. Oh no, that's slacking off, or that's me giving up. I'm not a quitter, right? Like, wait, what? Is that is that what's really happening here? Are you being honest is the question. And a friend and someone who I worked with as a coach once told me, you cannot read the label from inside your own jar. You need somebody else to
really like
read
that.
it to you sometimes.
That one
and
hurts my
that
brain.
completely like humanized you in the
Yeah.
moment, right? You're right. I actually can't see through the label and read the words. You're right. Like that's fundamentally impossible. And
Yeah.
that's why this feels hard right now. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes, let's do that. And then we walk through those like I want to understand you the way I want you to understand you.
Yeah, like where are you at in this moment?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one, and something that I'm lucky to be able to do, like daily coaching,
Yeah.
is, and something that it requires a level of trust for someone to be like,
Absolutely.
hey, this is where I'm at today. This is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is what happened. Like, what should I do? And it's nice to be able to do that, and for people to be able to put themselves out there and,
Yeah.
basically say, like, I'm not going 100% today.
Yeah.
But can you help me figure out where I need to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What
that's-
is the right thing for me today? That's
Yeah.
a conversation
And
we
that's-
have all the time.
That's a big, piece of growth for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because they don't start there. Most
No.
people will hide it and do they'll grind out bad reps and maybe, make themselves sick and things like that. And
And
being
then they
able
don't
to
show
ask,
up.
yeah.
Because that's going to make you.
And then
have
we
a-
just don't go at
not
all.
like it.
So being able to ask for help is like a huge bit of growth for
Yes.
anybody that, for us that's coming to our gym, and it's nice to see.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and really, it's like give yourself a little grace, right? And like be
That's
kinder
a
to
huge
yourself.
part of the
listen.
recipe.
Be
And-
kind, man.
And really, when you see kind of what we're getting at, it's like, well, for one, make the exercise piece of the puzzle enjoyable and not like this like monkey wrench in your life.
Punishment.
Then once that's
Yeah.
when that's oh man, I want to do this.
Yeah.
It benefits me.
Yeah.
It serves me. Then why do I want to do this?
Right.
And when you have those two pieces,
The how becomes a lot easier.
like that's how you do it for life. You
Yeah.
know? Versus like I want to lose 20 pounds, time to exercise, all out.
Yep.
5 weeks later, this is awful. I hate this. I'm a failure. I'll try again in 10 months, right?
Yeah.
And then start that process over.
And I don't know, how much do you see the kind of phenomenon, if you will, of, I guess we could simplify it down to like extrinsic versus intrinsic motivators as far as like what's driving you as a human. I do not think this is a personality thing. A lot of times the work that I'll do with somebody really dives into a proclaimed personality, and really it's a set of patterns that we've conditioned ourselves in over time. And it becomes a question of, do I like that about me?
Yeah.
And if it's not working for me, kind of leaning back on what we've just finished talking about, if it's not working for me right now, guess what? You can change it, and that's hard work, but we can do it. But this idea that, am I compelled from inside because of this why, because it's part of who I am, because I'm connected to the greater meaning of it, to do these things that are good for me, exercise, eating differently, a lifestyle that supports everything, right? Or am I reaching out and trying to grab on to something that will pull me along for a little while, because
Yeah.
that is also not only not going to work for a long time, going back to that longevity versus temporary results piece, but it's also going to be kind of miserable. You're going to get kind of dragged along, and it's not going to feel good. So that kind of leans towards what you were just talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny playing the little, clarity thing you talked about earlier. Now, at this current stage, the thing that really can be a why or clarity for me,
Yeah.
or the word association,
Yeah.
is control.
Oh.
I realize which makes sense because there's a lot, I have my own business, and then there's a coronavirus, and there's
Gary, how do you feel when you feel like you're in control?
yeah. So I feel like knowing I'm in control, that calms me.
It calms you because you feel like you know what's going to happen next, and you can either facilitate it or stop it.
Right, which is what's great, or at least for me, why exercise and nutrition, why I'm able to stick with it, because I can control them. Right. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just being honest. Like, if you were to ask me to really pick, because at this stage, there's not much I want to be a certain level of fitness or a certain level of body composition. It's really man, these are parts of my day and life that I can control.
So I'm going to
stop
stop myself from going in that direction with this. And instead I'm going to say, oh my gosh, really what you're saying is your entire why right now is just really about being in charge of your own life. Right?
Which is my whole life.
Yeah, that is your whole life.
But that's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So I like to
I'm
use
taking it to the extreme.
I like to use the word agency. Actually, Brendan Burchard, I don't know if you know who he is, a high performance coach. He's a really cool guy. I kind of gleaned this from some work I did with him once, but agency over your life. If you're an agent for someone, your job is to go out and get the best and promote the best for them, but also to make sure that they're accountable so that when they show up to those opportunities, they have what it takes to get them, because they're worth it and they want it and they can grow and all. You're supposed to be doing that for yourself. Nobody else is doing that for you, right? So being an agent for yourself, having agency in your life is maybe a kinder word than control sometimes.
That is a better word, though. Control makes it sound, I don't know.
What about you, Will? What's your word association?
Man, I don't even know. I haven't even thought about it. This COVID brain, man.
I know. I don't know. I find it very fascinating. Do you listen to Andrew Huberman?
I love the Huberman Lab, yeah.
You talked about, some of the stuff. And did you see the thing recently with the emotions and the nervous system? And
I just looked at that today. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen what you're talking about, but it's resonating.
It's so good. Yeah, I mean, they
it's
have
a nervous
these,
system map.
Heat map.
I do. I do know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and where you experience emotion in the body.
And the two most extreme ones were happiness. And what was the other one where the whole body
sadness?
was lit up? I think it was sadness.
I think it's sadness, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just fascinating. And it's, he's really big on the nervous system. And,
so I use that a lot, and this actually, what I'm about to say, comes from the field of trauma work, and whether that means overcoming the way trauma is impacting you or resolving trauma patterns that are in your life, right? We kind of, as a culture, try to go through the brain to get to the body. But if you think about it, the ultimate, and again, this comes from trauma work, but it's applicable to everything in my approach, or like the way I've observed things. We try to go through the brain to get to the body, meaning we're going to try and think differently. We're going to try and do different things to create this outcome in our physical body, right? But it's not even a secret anymore. It used to be kind of this whoa thing, but now the brain and the body are physically connected. There's a nerve system. It's called the vagus system, that is literally connecting your mind and your body, and how the neurotransmitters create experiences in your mental experience versus how your body is physically feeling them. And so that map that you're talking about is really a visual picture of what I'm saying. And we can go through the body to get to the brain too, and we don't remember that on our day-to-day. And it often is one of the more effective ways to get it, because it's a grounding tool that allows us to turn off the stress nervous system and turn on the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, right? Which allows a lot of the work to actually take hold. So it becomes a physical process and not just this mental process, right? But I was going somewhere else with that, but long story short, you can go both ways, and it's all connected.
Yeah. So, and I think a good example, I know that makes that click for me. So maybe someone listening is.
Yeah.
So then you have like they always talked about the gut brain
Yes.
connection,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and, Andrew Huberman, he had a video on this where, and this makes sense, right? Because if we, evolved and we were walking in the woods and you ate something poisonous, and you remember that taste, you would want to then be worried and stressed and not eat that again, so that
Yes.
didn't happen.
Yes.
Well, even if you tell yourself something can be really bad for you, that stress from physically eating it, and then you're like, oh, I had a lot of gut, food was bad for me because I had my
huge.
digestion was bad.
uh-huh.
But the reality could be it could have nothing to do with the food.
Yeah.
But maybe
Uh-huh.
someone told you ahead of time, hey, if you eat
Yes.
bananas, you're gonna be in trouble. You will stress, and that's the relationship your brain and gut want to have to protect you.
Right.
But the reality is, it had nothing to do with actual food.
Well, Psych 101, thoughts come before feelings. We always
Yes.
go straight to the feeling, but there is always a thought under that feeling, right?
Yep.
So the feeling might elicit an emotion. A feeling is your thoughts articulation of that, but the emotion is the physical presence of that in your body. That the map that you're referring to shows us this, that sadness is physical, it's chemical. Happiness is chemical in your body, and it does get stored in your cells or released through your cells, right? Okay, so my thoughts impact how my body is physically showing up. So then we throw the equation of nutrition in there, and we go, oh, did you guys know about the Milkshake Study?
The Milkshake
Yes.
Study.
I think you have to.
I feel like I have heard about
You
it.
can
Yeah,
totally
I've read
Google
Yeah.
it.
With the kid,
Well, it's two groups of people.
Yeah.
One is given, so the same milkshake, okay? So this blind
Oh,
study where
yeah.
they
this
don't
is
know
on
about each
Huberman
other.
Lab.
Yeah.
Oh, did they talk about it on there? It's
Yeah.
it's well known, so you could totally Google it.
It was in Precision Nutrition too. They had it at one point.
So they, one group is marketed this weight loss shake. It's, oh, this is a healthy meal replacement. Da 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 da. This is part of your diet, right? And they drink the milkshake. And then the other group, unbeknownst to each other, the other group is given this decadent hand-spun whipped ice cream treat, whatever it is, and they're like, oh, this is lovely, and they drink it down. Which physical, then they analyze the metabolism, the digestion, blah, blah, blah. Which group metabolized the ice cream better? Do you know?
The more relaxed and enjoyable.
Yes,
Yeah.
the people who thought they were indulging.
Yep.
And it's all about the quality. I think that's the best way to say it. The quality of my thoughts. We talk about qualifying and quantifying. Everybody wants to quantify everything, how many
Yep.
calories, etc.
Yeah.
Oh, this is better for me. Okay, I'll eat that. Wait a minute. How do you feel about that thing?
Yeah.
That's going to matter so much more. I just had this conversation with a client the other day. She got so excited that it was better for her to stop working and have lunch with someone she enjoyed being with, and that was actually going to help her metabolize her food better.
Yeah. And a lot of people off the same thing don't realize, you look at someone who has an eating disorder, right, and they're shriveling away, and I don't know how they do that, but the reality is they create pathways in their brain where they get the same dopamine. Say, you eat a donut, and you're like, this is awesome, and you get a dopamine hit.
They get the same feeling from not eating
Yeah,
it.
they can
Yeah.
rewire pathways to
Yeah.
where they get the same feeling for
Yeah.
not eating it and having like a carrot stick,
Yeah.
right? And they'll get that dopamine
It's-
hit.
yeah.
So now we're all chasing the same dopamine hit.
Yeah. We're all the same but different.
And it all starts with, it's mental. It's more than just
Yes.
physical.
So again, coming back and getting clear on what it is I'm thinking, why I'm thinking it, and where it's coming from, and how it's impacting my physical body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the stress over food is a really big one now because there's so many allergies and there are real things, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's not, but if you're constantly worried that gluten is going to mess you up, well, even if you don't have a problem with it, when you eat something,
You're
you're going to
probably
start to
not
manifest
gonna,
that.
Absolutely.
And that stress, and over time, you will always have that reaction because in the back of your head, you're like, oh, this is going to wreck me. This is going to destroy me. And it happens,
Yeah.
because you have that negative association with it.
And I think to tie the pieces of this part of the conversation together with what you just said, it's more to do with the physical state you are creating in your body by the quality of your thoughts than it
Yes.
is this idea that the placebo effect,
Yeah.
right? There's actual physical science in there that supports that. It's not just, oh, I thought it, so it's true.
Yeah. It's the stress and all of that kind of cascades and all the different hormone changes and nervous system changes that make that happen.
Essentially what it is, going back to your comment, is we turn on the sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, as opposed to the parasympathetic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then kind of more macro, above all this is, how, and I'm sure people hear and roll their eyes when they're trying to, figure this out for themselves. Oh, it gets easier as you get going. And it does, because think about it. I mean, all of us have been doing this for over a decade.
That's why.
You convince you because the reasons, I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. I have more confidence. Oh, I'm able to now attach these things as more value. And having more home cooked food and more whole foods is a action that leads to this outcome that I've now attached high value to these things, and I get dopamine and joy from these.
It's the integration of your human experience.
And
it
now
just shifts.
it's easy, right?
Right. Or it's maybe easy is the best word, but it's automatic.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah, I'm reading a book now called Effortless by Greg McEwen. He's the same guy that wrote Essentialism.
Yes.
And that's what it talks about.
Okay.
Make the biggest rocks, the most important things effortless, and make the things that aren't as valuable really hard, right? Now, it's backwards because it's our phones, right? We don't want to really spend all that time on our phone, but it's so easy. Make that harder.
Yes.
Unsubscribe from your notifications.
This is Habits 101, right?
Yeah.
Put more friction between you and the thing you want to stop doing.
Ever since we had talked about this, I deleted I removed all my notifications from my phone.
Oh, yeah.
Aside from text messages and then our Google chat, which is how we communicate for work. Aside from that, nothing. I get no notifications. And now I forget to open up Instagram. So I leave people hanging for a day or two.
Oh, absolutely.
Gary, I left him hanging for a full day the other. It was just
he
fine.
has another way to get to you.
Exactly. But I realized that now there's a
I don't
barrier
even think
to
about
it. Yeah, and it's and it's harder now. I have to actually think rather than it coming to me.
Yep.
And it's been way better.
Well, that goes back to the concept of having agency over your life, right? And
that's exactly
I
it.
always fall back on that classic Jim Rohn quote: either you can run the day or the day can run you. It's position yourself to be the filter for what comes to you and what doesn't, right?
Yeah. Don't get strung along you're getting pulled by your notifications on your phone,
and then you're automatically going to be extrinsically motivated, which is not going to serve you long term.
So
make it effortless. And I was having a conversation yesterday with someone. I was like, my habits now are effortless. It can seem harder to someone. But if you actually told me, well, stop preparing your meal and grocery shopping, so then I would need to say, go out to eat to get food for lunch. That then initially would be way harder.
Yeah.
It would be harder for me to go to Chick-fil-A every day because I'm like, I got to go in my car and I got to wait in line and this is frustrating and what do I want? And
anything that's different feels harder.
Yeah. So, I think it's understanding in the beginning, find these whys and understand there is this
hump to get over.
Yeah.
But it does get easier. That's not a cliche.
Yeah. I always use the metaphor of the bridge going to Hatteras in the Outer Banks, right? Remember the old bridge? Right? First of all, that was scary. But and when they built the new bridge, you could see it being built, but you couldn't drive on it yet, right? So it was kind of weird. But then also when you started taking the new bridge, it was a little bit different. And that was kind of weird. But then guess what? We can still see the old bridge while we're driving over the new bridge, right? So that is the perfect metaphor for understanding how neural pathways form in your brain. The old bridge is the way you're used to doing things now, right? But to build the new bridge, you have to do work that you may not see the fruit of immediately, but you still got to build it. Those workers still had to show up every day and build that bridge if we were going to cross it one day, right? And then you cross over, you do the work, you show up consistently, and you're driving over the new bridge. Guess what? The old bridge is not going away, right? It's still there. And so under times of stress and pressure, a lot of times the body will fall back on what it knows.
Take the old bridge.
Right, because it's things are a little scary in this new world. I'm gonna fall back on that old comfort zone.
Yeah, where it felt good.
And when we understand that that's neurological, it's not just mental or something
You're not
that's wrong
weak or
with me,
bad.
right? Then we can start going, oh, okay, wow, this is gonna be hard because I'm headed into this hard season. So I'm gonna put as much friction between me and that old pathway as possible, and I'm going to make it as easy as possible to do the things that I've learned feel good.
You know what helps in that situation?
Tell me.
A coach.
Oh!
Absolutely.
It does, though, right?
Absolutely.
Because you have someone that says, hey, this is what you should do, or coaching you through figuring out what you should do instead of you having to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, and I see it on every level. Like, I have a business coach, and there's certain things I
Yes.
try to apply in my business, and it makes me
Absolutely.
uncomfortable, and it's hard.
Right.
But then this is what you got to do. And I'm
Keep
like, well,
doing
they
it.
believe it will work, even though I am scared.
Yes.
And it helps you push through it. And then
Yes.
obviously I see that when we coach people with their, fitness and nutrition. And
Yep.
it's just, when you don't believe in yourself yet, you need someone else.
To give
And
you a
it's,
little
again, it
nudge.
sounds cliche and
No,
corny, but
it's 100% the essence of, as the therapist role for me. It's so hard to articulate, but I don't think until someone's gone through the process they really get it. But it is the relationship that you have with that therapist that creates the healing or the improvement or whatever it is you went to them for. Because Gary, you and I could be equally skilled in habit formation, okay? But my relationship with someone and me being hooked up to their best interest and the observation of what's, whatever, might work for that person better than if you're just handing out worksheets every day. Because the process is the same.
Yeah.
But it's the connection, and that's not me saying you wouldn't be good at it. But I do believe that certain people are meant to connect to certain people. So there are people who would work really well with you guys who would, I'm probably not their cup of tea, and vice versa. And that's okay. But I think that's something that people need to hear is that you're allowed to shop.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people that in therapy all the time. Like, I may not be the best therapist for you. Let's see how this goes for a few weeks, and then,
I mean, we do it at our gym. We know what we do and what people will like or not like. And when we had people come in and we could tell this isn't going to be their vibe, right? And we were like, and every time we've done it, we were like, hey, you should go try this gym. They're almost like taken aback and like, what's the catch? Like, why are you trying? And it's
Why
like,
are you
no,
referring
like,
me
literally,
out?
So
we just think it would be a better fit.
because ultimately, I mean, that's human nature. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So, but it's the opposite, right? Everyone's like, my way or the highway.
Right.
But the reality is, like, a bunch of stuff works,
We're all different, but the same.
Yeah, I think, we nailed it.
Oh. Right.
But with the, where'd we start out? We started out with finding your why, right?
Yeah.
But as far as nailing it, I know when I would listen to this to reinforce for myself, it's realizing that you have to personalize it.
Yes.
And you find, because I always think through the stuff, while you guys are talking and everything, it's like, oh yeah, like now my, word association is control because there's a lot I can't control and it makes me comforting to be able to control it. But that wasn't the case 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So if I had a client or someone's listening and they're trying to get over that first hump, you have to let them find that, right? You can't necessarily tell them what it is.
Yeah.
Because what I'm resonating with right now is way different than what I resonated with when I was trying to get over that hump.
Absolutely. And if you think about the sequence of the way I describe that exercise, start with a negative. Sometimes it makes it easier. So to that person who's just starting out, how are you feeling at the end of the day right now? That just totally sucks. Yeah. Identify that. Get clear on that. Not just, oh, I can't do this or da-da-da. It's, no, I feel dissatisfied or I feel defeated or I feel like a failure or whatever it is. And then take that and find the alternative that is your desire, right? So that can help you go, you know what? I want to feel satisfied. I want to feel like I'm happy with how I spent my time today. Okay, that. Yeah. Then we set a daily goal instead of a 365-day resolution, right? Because if every day I start the day out with the goal of feeling satisfied with the way I've spent my time today, I'm going to be much more likely to go to bed with a little bit more peace each day than I was if I was going, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, you know?
So if someone's listening and they're thinking, man, I really want to improve my health and fitness. I see all these things, do this for your health and that, and I just got to get started, but I always fail. Is pretty much what you're saying, which is what a lot of stuff's coming to. It's like, this is where you would start with smaller steps, basically. And
100% identify one thing. And if you're that person who has this list of, or you read all the blogs or you listen to all the podcasts or whatever, and you, what is it, stories, like, all these people telling you what to do on stories, right?
Because it works for them.
Pick one thing that actually has resonance with you. Like, if they're telling you to drink celery juice and you're like, that's disgusting, don't pick that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Pick, I'm going to drink water before I have my coffee.
Yep.
every day and nail it. Get to the place where you are like, I own this habit. This is mine. Because guess what? Now you have something to build on. So you have your water and then you're having your coffee. Well, maybe now you switch over to a non-toxic, like low crap creamer or something like
Yep.
that, right? You make that next step. But yes, that's going to slow your process down. But guess what? You're going to be really good at it and
Yeah.
you're going to reap the benefits along the way. And that's going to feel a lot better than
Yeah.
I think you'll note also too. You'll notice more benefits along the way,
Absolutely.
which then
Yes.
what we talked about ultimately. If hey, you want to get to a point where this is my lifestyle and I
Yes.
enjoy this, it's really finding all those little things that you value. That
Yes.
could be, I'm not as drowsy with this higher quality,
Yes.
food choice,
Yeah.
right? And now, but if you were like in gung ho all or nothing mode, you don't notice those things
you don't notice
because
those
you're
things.
like putting so much effort into
And
it.
that, not to drag this out any longer, but
This always
the,
happens.
the idea though there is probably one of my core values, which is mindfulness. And mindfulness does not mean you meditate. It means you know who you are, you know what you're doing, you know what you're
Yeah.
thinking, you know how you're feeling, you know how it's applying to your life, you know what's going on around, you are present. And so a lot of times one thing I'll have people do is create experiences around those little things to make them bigger, right? Whatever the concept
okay.
of celebrate the small wins,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So gratitude is such a worthy and essential practice because gratitude shifts your mindset. It's not just about being thankful, but it shifts your mindset into open possibility as opposed to closed lack. So when you're having that cup of coffee in the morning that you've switched over to, like I just got an almond cow, which is the coolest thing ever.
Wait, a what?
An almond cow.
Okay.
So I make my own milk now. I'm basically a cow.
Milk and
Milk and
almonds.
almonds.
But
I saw a
so
commercial, like it was kind of like a spoof of that.
when you're when you're having your cup of coffee with your non-toxic additive whatever, and you can literally and smell it and taste it and feel the warmth of the cup in your hand and notice that when you close your eyes the world is actually peaceful for just a moment, and when you swallow it, how does it feel, and create an experience.
so
Now, all of a
you're
sudden,
extremely present and really making it something.
right, because positive association is psychological, and it's going to help you grab back onto that over and over and over again. And no, this doesn't mean I have a 5-minute love fest with my cup of coffee every morning.
There's nothing wrong with that if you do.
But let me tell you, I'm a happy person in the morning, and you can't chalk it up to being a morning person. You chalk it up to habits and intentions.
Yeah. I don't even know if this is related, but I was telling someone the other day, they were talking about something about how they had pizza, and then I mentioned, actually, I was here at where the podcast studio is, and they had pizza. It's like a co-working space last night. When I was leaving, they had like happy hour, and they had a bunch of pizza. And they're like, "Oh, did you get any pizza?" The person I was talking to. I was like, "No," because not because I didn't want the pizza. It smelled good, but when I'm gonna have pizza, I need it needs to be at home.
You need control.
You need the Washington football team
It has to be
playing.
behind closed doors, right? Because think
Oh.
about, I don't want to sit there and eat pizza and have to have etiquette, and I'm talking to other people. I want to be at home
So it's
where
a
I'm laying on the-
vanity thing.
Yeah, well,
Like an animal.
yeah, I want to lay on the couch, eat the pizza, it might
Oh,
fall on
wow.
you.
This
and
is
you
a
just,
whole experience.
But this
It's a whole
It's an
experience,
experience,
right?
yeah.
I'm watching football or I'm watching
right.
TV.
You're like, no, this isn't how I like to enjoy my pizza.
Yeah, so I was,
I respect that.
I was like, you got to tie everything to an experience.
Yes.
I like
Yes.
that, yeah.
My
Yes.
pizza eating experience is personal and inappropriate for public. So, yeah.
It's a mindful experience, which makes it more efficient and
Yeah.
worthy.
Now every
But
time I
you-
see that you have pizza, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have this
Yeah.
image in my brain of
You're
you
going to be
just-
like, time to go.
Yeah.
Or I suggest, hey, guys, y'all want to go out for pizza?
Or do you,
No,
hey, do you want to
not
come
with
over
you.
and eat
Yeah,
pizza?
you wanna
Nah.
come over and eat pizza?
Nah.
And then
I'll
with
pass.
that, with your coffee, it's funny because coffee and me don't get along, like caffeine. But the thing I love most about coffee is the experience.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
the
the
best.
smell of
Yes.
it, making it,
Right.
sitting there drinking it,
Yes.
it's warm.
Yes. Well, those nuances that you get, like you were talking about a little while ago about, the older you get, the more experienced you get in the habits that are good for you, the more play you have with them, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm someone with the things that I deal with in this body don't need a lot of caffeine. So I did have to discipline and go through caffeine
Yeah.
cleanses and whatnot. And I switched. I love matcha, but I switched to matcha for a while. In the morning, that doesn't cut it for me. I need
Yeah.
that coffee experience. But I also learned my threshold for tolerance, right? I learned that I can have a beautiful, amazing cup of coffee in the morning, and that can be enough for me.
Yeah.
And that's a growth process.
I'm exactly the same. Like I love coffee. And that was a decaf that I was drinking while we were. If I had a regular coffee at noon, I'm game over. But I went through years of having coffee or having like 2 Monsters a day,
Oh
and
my
then
goodness.
realized like this is not good for me.
Right.
Somebody who is already a little bit more anxious and wired, and had settled on like if you're gonna have it, you can only have 1 serving in the morning, and that's it.
And what's going to be what works best for me? So going back to your pizza experience, we're not telling anybody they can't ever have pizza, but when is it going to serve you the most?
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is people end up making convenience decisions in a lack of mindfulness way, and that turns into a situation of excess of the wrong things, right? So if we bring mindfulness to it, it's going, no, I can value pizza. I can enjoy it. When is it best for me to do that, and where can I put boundaries around that?
Yeah. And the person I was talking to, it was basically a mindful lesson in that.
Yes.
And pizza is a very calorie dense food, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if I have it on a random Thursday now in an environment where I'm not going to completely enjoy it, is that worth it, right? Because then if I turn around and do have it on Saturday, well, now I'm having pizza twice a week, and what if it turns into 3 times a week? And now it's a whole thing, right?
Yep.
So if you really create these experiences around your foods, there will be more meaning to it than it's not just the food.
Yeah, and you're integrating all parts of yourself, right? Going back to the nervous system conversation. Yeah.
I think my favorite food ritual is the eggs in the morning, So I have my eggs. It's all about the yolk, right?
Oh.
It is all about the yolk.
Do
You're
you
right.
like a runny yolk?
Yeah. Oh, it has to be
God,
runny. So
yes.
if it messes up, it's so disappointing.
It is disappointing.
You overcook it?
I'm a stuffed sweet potato junkie. I don't know if I made this
Oh.
up. I probably can't take credit for it, but basically I'll take a roasted sweet potato and put anything on it. But my favorite is egg, and then the yolk has to be runny because it kind of creates a
Sounds
sauce.
really good.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, egg on anything.
Egg on sweet potato. I mean, I like eggs on anything.
You have to have a veggie. The sweet potatoes, the starch, the veggies, and the protein. And then the condiments are really where I shine.
What's your go-to with an egg?
Oh,
Are you a
hot
hot
sauce
sauce?
and Primal Kitchen Caesar.
Okay. Caesar on an egg.
Primal Kitchen.
Okay, interesting.
So just this morning, this is gonna be crazy, right?
Let's hear this.
So my dog, right?
Oh,
So like Alexis, she'll feed him. He'll get we feed him a raw food diet, and she'll give him the beef, and pretty much that, right? The mornings we alternate mornings because he wakes us up every morning like 4:45, and we normally don't get up till 5. So she'll take him out, bathroom, breakfast one morning, I'll do the next. So those days there's that. Then with me, I'm gonna church this up. So I'll take it, I'll put his little beef in there. Then I'll put some blueberries in there.
Oh my gosh.
And then, then I'll take an egg yolk, put that in there.
A whole experience.
Then I take, there's
Do you like candles too?
no, there's this omega-3 stuff. I think it's like omega-3 and chicken fat, and then so it looks just like a sauce.
drizzle
dude.
that on there?
I drizzle it on,
Aw.
but it
He
looks
has
like
a whole foodie
and
experience
then when
every
he's
other
eating
day.
it, she's like, Why are you
Why are you trying to up me
She's
like
why are you
that?
staring at him while he's eating? And I'm like, look, he's having a whole
I'm
experience.
having a vicarious mindful moment here.
Because he'll
man.
you can see him smelling everything, and then he'll lick a
ooh,
little bit of it, eat a blueberry, and I'm
What's
like,
that, Dad?
this is a whole experience,
Yeah, I found that I do
Healthy
that
digestion.
when I make lunch. I'll usually have eggs with my beef at lunch, and so I make the dog his own egg, an over easy egg, and his usually looks even
I'm
better than
noticing
mine
a theme
does.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that we need kids.
yeah, I think that's what it is.
I mean, I love my dog too.
Yeah,
but
so he'll get like a little bit of like leftover meat, whatever, whether it's ground chicken, ground beef, and then an egg on top, and then I'll do like some desiccated liver and stuff on top of that. But I plate it really well, and then just give it that little sprinkle.
See,
on
this is
top.
how I serve my family dinner, but
Well, same,
Oh.
same.
It's like a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't have kids, then you make your dogs fancy
that's
meals.
right.
Yep. All right, that's enough.
That's enough.
Thank
Before
you
we
guys.
ridicule ourselves. Thank you, Amanda, for coming by.
Yeah.
Thanks for
We
having me.
appreciate it.
Thanks for stimulating conversation.
You always get my mind going.
Yeah.
Now I got to find my word.
All right.
I can't wait to hear it.
That's my homework.
Yeah, find your word.
Find your word.
why. Your why word.
My Y word.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.